I should show you how to use the rule feature of Save to evaluate your architecture design. I assume that you have already extracted the Save architecture from your source code. What we see here is the architecture of the example project that comes with Save. So one of the subsystems is called interfaces, and it has a subfolder streaming. And there's another folder called implementation. Now we want to create a rule that specifies that that no component in the implementation subsystem accesses any component in the interfaces streaming subsystem. Now if you look at the diagram, you can see that they're already violated, but we want to make this explicit using the rules. So in order to create a rule, we first have to create something called a rule set. In order to do that, we go to the Save Model browser on the left side of the screen, and we right-click on the project root. Now we go to computations, and we choose conformance rules, and we create a rule set. We provide a name for that rule set, and then click OK. Now if you go back to the Save Model browser, we see that there's an empty rules container basically. It doesn't contain any rules yet, so what we have to do now is to actually create the rules. We do that by just right-clicking on the container and choosing computation, conformance rules, and create rule. Now we see a window that opens up where we first have to specify the name of the rule, which let's say is implementation streaming. And then we specify the rule itself. We start by specifying a relation type that we're targeting. Save has a whole bunch of relation types that I explain in more detail in the Save user manual. In order to say that we want to check for any dependency between components, which includes call dependencies, access dependencies, and such, we just choose the dependency relation. Every other relation is a subset of that relation. In the next option, we specify whether or not the dependency we're specifying now should exist or should not exist. So we say should not exist. Then we specify the source component of that dependency. And we do that by specifying regular expressions. So we say that from any component that contains a certain expression, and we specify the expression by clicking on pattern, and then we have to add that pattern to the pattern set, so that what we want to specify is that any dependencies that go from the implementation subsystem to the streaming subsystem. So in this case, we want to specify that the implementation should not have any connection. So the implementation is a source folder in this case. In order to specify implementation, we can simply say that for anything that contains implementation in it, that should be the source. That should be the source of the dependency. So dot star stands for a dot stands for any character, and star says any number of characters. So anything that comes before implementation, anything after implementation is ignored. Let's click OK. And now we select the pattern as a source component. Say OK. Now we can also choose multiple source components if we need to. The next thing we have to do is to choose a target component. In this case, we say again it contains a pattern. We have to create a new pattern for specifying the streaming subfolder. So in this case, it would be dot star streaming. Now be aware that if there's another streaming folder at another location of the C project, you might want to specify it in more detail to make sure you hit the right folder. It's okay. So we choose the streaming pattern, say OK, and now we have specified the target subsystem. Now all we have to do is OK to create the rule. Now we've only created the rule, which doesn't do anything to the diagram yet. In order to evaluate whether or not our architecture adheres to the rule, we have to evaluate it based on these rules. What we have to do is we have to right-click on that uh, uh, rules container and go to computation, comparison, computation, conformance rules, and apply rule set on safe package. What we have to choose now is the package that contains the view on which we want to apply the rules. Um, the first package only contains all the models, but we want to apply to the view, which is the second package. So we choose that package and just simply click OK. What Safe does now is it creates a new package containing a diagram that is annotated with the evaluation results. So we see a new diagram down here. We can double click on it to visualize it in the main view. Now if we scroll to the right, what we see is that Safe found out that there's two connections that do not adhere to the rule. Exclamation marks indicate that these connections are extra connections. So the rules specify they shouldn't be there, but they are there.